This video is about Saya no Uta. This video will contain spoilers. Viewer discretion is advised. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite VNs of all time, Saya no Uta. It's a VN that recently got re-released onto Steam with some changes that I wanted to be able to talk about in this video. Especially because I'm a longtime fan of the game and I kind of believe that the controversy is a little bit overblown if you ask me. Not completely without merit, but a little bit overblown. Another reason that I'm making this video is because I want to use this as a sort of referential point for a visual novel that I'm going to talk about in the future. One that's currently in development and also one that might be a little bit of a acquired taste, if you will. And if that wasn't enough, I'm also going to make this the first attempt that I make in a long-form video. You know, because when I make a video about that other VN, I don't want to catastrophically fuck up and, well, turn a whole bunch more people off from it. So, without further ado, let's talk about Song of Saya. Saya no Uta, or The Song of Saya for my English-speaking friends, is a visual novel that was released all the way back in 2003. It's gained a cult following for both NIP and non-NIP audiences thanks to a few retranslations and many recommendations as a beginner's VN. It's recently gained a new stream of followers with a Steam re-release from the end of last year. Song of Saya follows the story of Sakisaka Fuminori, a young man who, after a car accident that kills both of his parents, is stricken with a mental affliction from a botched surgery that has heavily altered his five senses. Everything he sees is grotesque and nightmarish. Everything he smells is nauseating. Everything he eats is vomit-inducing, and everything he hears is distorted and hard to interpret. His life is literal hell. He does, however, have one saving grace. One night during his hospital stay, he meets a mysterious girl named Saya. She smells, looks, and talks normal enough. Saya becomes Fuminori's light in a world of darkness. She is searching for her father, who works at the hospital but who's recently gone missing. The two eventually hit it off, and after a little reflection, Saya comes to live with Fuminori. Saya does her best to help Fuminori cope by attempting to cook for him, paint the inside of his house in more appealing colors, and generally caring for him the best that she can. However, Saya has a secret. Due to Fumi's altered senses, he doesn't see Saya's true nature. She's actually a monster from another dimension.
誰かいるの?
One whose true appearance is enough to drive anyone mad. She views Fuminori as a lover, an instrument in her ultimate goal, as she needs human DNA to fulfill her species' objective of spreading her genes around the world, creating more creatures like herself. They become closer as the game progresses, with the two eventually finalizing their feelings for each other after a traumatic incident gives Saya a new perspective about other humans and her feelings for Fuminori. Based on what the player chooses, Fuminori can either be cured of his mental affliction by Saya, with the side effect of never seeing Saya again, or he can reject his little remaining humanity and live forever with his Lovecraftian lover. It's a story filled with dark themes such as grape, cannibalism, and body horror, mixed with an unconventional love story. The main characters are a mixed bag in terms of their portrayal, and I believe that might be a turnoff for most people. The story paints both Fuminori and Saya as despicable, while still remaining slightly understandable in terms of their views of the world around them. Fuminori comes off as a total dick through his interactions with his friends, but having everything stripped away from him and being stuck in a personal purgatory has warped him. He goes from someone who, in his words, was either quiet or just polite to people, into someone that cares very little for others save for Saya. He's a man who wants for nothing more than to hold onto the last shred of normalcy he has. This eventually leads to him into doing so by any means necessary. Saya as a character is very hard for me to describe easily. She has some level of innocence or naivety due to her not being human, but she's also fairly intelligent, enough to be able to interpret an MRI of Fuminori's brain and even do advanced math rivaling that of a supercomputer. She's loving and compassionate to Fuminori, but on the other hand, she holds little regard for others and does some really reprehensible things. There's one anecdote regarding her staying at the hospital, stealing donated organs, and even one occurrence of a newborn baby going missing. She manages to replicate the same mental condition that Fuminori has on some unsuspecting man, which causes him to go insane, killing both his wife and young daughter. She is also fiercely protective of her lover, whether that means killing an intruder who comes in to investigate the household, or even when she lures another girl to their house to mutate her into a creature like Saya as both a gift to Fuminori and as an act of jealousy, as said girl had a crush on Fuminori before Saya came along. She's a horrible character, but at the same time, despite all those things, she's still kind of likable in an antagonistic way. She isn't human. She was only taught lessons on humanity after she was summoned from her home dimension by an occult-obsessed doctor. That's where she developed her sentience, including her desire for love after being exposed to the concept of romance during her research about humans. What part is the monster? What part is the human? Is the human side making these decisions, or is it the monster? There's a scene where Saya gifts Fuminori their new house pet. He says that her cruelty is very human of her, that her form might be different from theirs, but her soul is the same. It's pretty true. An animal or monster might do something out of necessity or within their nature, but humans are capable of very wicked things when driven by bloodlust, emotions, or just regular lust. I like Saya as less of a waifu character and more like a really well-written movie monster. I also stand to believe that she has one of the best character figures of all time. Saya no Uta is a game that has gone through multiple English translations and was left uncensored until it was ported to Steam in 2019. The developer Nitro Plus is mostly known for their Steins Gate series of VNs, and their big-boobed mascot, Supersonico. They had a hand in other VNs with darker tones like Saya's as well. Gen Uroboshi, the director and writer for Saya, who would later go on to make the popular Magical Girl Madoka series, did a spectacular job with SNU. Enough so that I'd say that this is probably his best work. Saya no Uta is near perfect in my eyes. Its story was a seismograph of emotions, but never felt convoluted. Its overall unsettling tone was fantastic for a thriller. The music was near perfect as well. From the title track, Sabbath, which gives you this calming vibe, to the track Schizophrenia, that plays in the scene where Fuminori is at the cafe with his friends where we first see the world through his eyes. It's chaotic and harsh and moody as all hell. Saya's themes and its variants also do a good job at giving her an aura of serenity and allure, you know, for a damn anthropomorphic meatball. And the track Savage that plays during the final fight scene is a rush. It's wild and really helps get the blood boiling, matching the fight scene perfectly. Saya is also not mired in the usual anime tropes, like giant robots, teenagers, high school drama, etc. So I'd expect people would be more open to enjoy this story because in my eyes, Saya no Uta is a great horror story. One that could be easily enjoyed universally. The only issue others might have with the game is the fact that its unlikable main characters might turn people off. Why bother reading a story about some douchebag and his waifu monster, especially if it's supposed to be romantic? That and some darker aspects of the game might end up turning people off, but honestly, I think its biggest mark against it is its title as an R18 game. That's usual for most Nitro Plus games, but gore and porn don't mix well when you're trying to get people to enjoy a story. It essentially shuts out 98% of people who might be willing to play the game for its story. How can you get others on board and help expose a game to a new audience all while keeping the game's original dark atmosphere intact? Well, simple. Censor the game. The censorship debate is not one I'm going to get into too deep here. It's long and complicated. Saya's censorship is more about the arrow scenes while keeping the gore intact. This isn't one of those cases where censorship is about curving back panty shots. It's about cutting the adult, i.e. porn, content while keeping the mature, i.e. bloody parts in. All I can say for me is that as long as nothing major in terms of the story is lost, I'm willing to cut arrow scenes if it means more people can enjoy the story in terms of distribution. I know that there's stuff like artistic vision and purpose for the game's existence, but Saya wasn't about the porn. It was supposed to be a romance or horror story. The porn plays a role as a plot point in a couple of instances, but it doesn't mean SNU's sole reason for existence is the arrow scenes. But hey, that's me. In truth, I'd rather leave the choice up to the player whether or not they want to keep content in-game or cut it out, but not many publishers or devs are nice enough to be able to take the extra steps to accommodate everyone. There are some devs out there who will allow people to patch in R18 content into their Steam release. Others might just have it behind a block in the options. Saya's censorship, however, was handled pretty badly. You can first uncensor the game by paying $5 for a patch via the publisher's website. Second, the censorship isn't even that good. There are a few art CGs that might have something lewd like nudity, and 5 scenes of acts being done, 3 softcore and 2 hardcore. The softcore stuff is completely skipped over, while one of the hardcore scenes has a CG in the background blurred, but you can still totally see what's going on, and a slice CG layered over on the top with a close-up of the 2 characters' faces from that scene. The second hardcore scene is just cropped to the character's face, which is how I'd expect something like this to be handled in the first place. There are a few CGs between the action scenes that might have nudity, but the censorship is weird here as well. Any scene that has Saya exposed is cropped. That, I thought, would make sense as a whole, but especially for Saya, since she's kind of, small. But then you get another more well-stacked character later on, and it's perfectly okay to show her boobs. Why? If you're gonna go and censor the damn game, then go all in! That all being said, you might ask if it's worth it to play unpatched. Well, yes and no. Only a minor impact is lost with the hardcore scenes, since the dialogue is trimmed as lightly as possible so you still know what's going on without being too explicit visually. And the 3 softcore scenes are more about giving clues to the reader about a reveal later on in the story. It acts as a nice, "Oh, that makes sense now" moment, but nothing really major. So if I had the choice between having a game published uncensored, but it being more of a pain in the ass to get in the first place, or take a toned-down game in just its erotic material and still keep the rest of what made the game great in the first place so it can be easier to distribute and easier to expose to others, I'd take the censorship hit, as long as they actually gave a shit about the censorship that they were doing in the first place. That's my take. I know others would rather have it completely open, but that's what we got. It's not a great solution, but at least others get to be able to play and enjoy the game, so long as they can get over all the edgy stuff that happens in it. Saya is not a game for the faint of heart. It's gory, disturbing, but also has these few moments of beauty. I'm willing to go as far as to say it's a perfect horror story. Again, it's not going to be for everyone, but for the few brave dorks willing to give the game a shot, I'd say you won't be disappointed. As for how this video will end up playing into that future video I plan to make, well, we're just gonna have to see. Hopefully, it won't turn out to be a catastrophic nightmare, but, well, we'll just have to see. Until then, my name is GN357, and thank you for allowing me to waste your time. This town is infested with monsters. How could you just sit there and eat pizza? Nope. Oh, weak. Doesn't even have the pizza. Ah, so weak. Let's see. This is Heaven's Night, I bet. Yep. Wait, what the heck? Why? You can't even fucking see the stripper pole. So why even have a mirror there?